It's lovely to join you and everybody around the globe. It's really a pleasure to be here tonight.
Well, I guess first of all, Denise, you're not coming from Washington or somewhere fancy around the world. You're being from the UK. It's wonderful. Is there any snow there? That's the theme today so far.
No, we had a few drops of snow a few days ago, but it's not too bad. A little fresh, but it's quite nice. We had sunshine today, which was lovely. I always call those the little wins in these times where there's so much uncertainty. You've got to look for those days where you get a little bit of sun rays. I'm homeschooling with my children, and so it was an opportunity for us to get outside and have a little bit of fun.
That sounds fantastic. And the place for snow used to be Chicago. But how are you coping in lockdown right now generally? Because obviously the UK is very much in stay at home, stay safe right now. It's a tough time for the UK. How are you coping?
I think like everyone in the UK, you have your ups and downs, and it has been particularly challenging because we're in lockdown 3. It's been tough, but my go-to has been the life that I've known for so many years, which is sport and activity, and trying to make the most of the area that I live in, where we're lucky we have some green space. But really, exercise has got me through, and it's got my family through. Luckily, they've got that sporting gene that they actually enjoy participating in and getting involved as well. But we've been cooking and we've been doing fun things as much as you can, but it's been a real tough time for the children. This uncertainty, education starting and online, being on the platform for way too many hours. But what I do know is that this time won't stay like this forever. So we've got to take our tentative steps towards in a new world, a different world, but a happier time.
I think that's quite inspirational, actually, and I'm pleased you can exercise. I mean, my family's not always getting exercise. I want to stay inside sometimes, so I'll encourage them. And now you're incredibly successful in many ways, someone who's achieved the highest accolades in the sports arena. He's on broadcasting, TV, and now from what you're saying, also, getting out there, exercise. You're an amazing parent, but there must have been times when you faced setbacks and difficulties, and these are tough times right now. How did you overcome these? And this whole theme today is about inspiration. What was your inspiration?
I think you can imagine a life in sport, the biggest setbacks are usually injuries, not getting selected for a team, or not quite reaching the performance that you like. And so you have to learn, I guess, in life, but in particular in sport, how to get over those setbacks really quickly, because they affect your self-esteem, they affect the things that your goals. And so learning to deal with setbacks, it hasn't been easy, but you find a way, you trust in the people around you as much as you can, but you have to be courageous. And, there are times in my athletic career when, injuries came at the worst possible moments before major championships. And in those situations, you stop thinking about the outcome, which for us is a medal or making a final, and focusing on what you can do in that moment. And when you readjust your thinking, you try to think about the small goals that you can achieve instead of focusing on the things that you can't at that moment in time. And that usually sets the mind in a different vein. It gives you an opportunity to actually pat yourself on the back when you make those small wins and those small gains.
That's really interesting. One word you said there was about being courageous. And I think that's a really interesting one, especially in these times, and also taking those small gains going through. But for me, that was sticking when you said that, being courageous in these times. And I think we all have to be quite courageous because it's not been easy right now. So thank you for sharing that as well. Let's do a bit of a time traveling trick now. Let's take you back in time. I'm not going to say how many years back in time to see a young Denise Lewis. Perhaps, somebody, I don't know, maybe 11, 12 years old, the same kind of time that Kehkashan was about to change the world and do amazing stuff around the world. What would you, if I took you back in time right now and you're sat there on the screen talking to the young Denise Lewis, what would you say to her?
I would say to be patient. we heard earlier, we were talking about timelines. Some people do things amazingly at a young age, and that's great. But sometimes it takes you a little longer to find your passion or find something that really stimulates you or interests you. But you've got to be patient to explore that, and know that as long as you're persistent and you have that passion within you, and you're a good learner. I think being a good learner is critical to no matter what you do in life, whether you're interested in music, art, or changing the planet and saving the environment. It is about making sure that you're a good learner and you ask questions, and yeah, have a little bit of fun as well when you're doing it. And those things, I think, have guided me definitely to this point. But the young Denise was not that confident, but being patient on that timeline allowed me to grow in confidence and to learn and to listen to my inner voice. And my targets were always just to be better than the moment before, the day before that, and those small little improvements that you can make are invaluable. They really are.
I think I had a teacher once at school said to me that if I learned one thing that day, I went to bed smarter than when I got up. And so Absolutely. That kind of each day you gain something, isn't it? It's amazing to do that. Now, obviously, we go around the world and we have millions of people watching the stream live. But I know there's one person who stayed up late to actually beam live into the classroom to talk to you as well. And I'm actually going to see on my screen now, and I hope it's going to work. We have Almira Asif, and she's aged 13, and she's from Karachi in Pakistan.
Hi, my name is Almira Asif, and I'm from Nasra School, Karachi, Pakistan. Ma'am Denise, I have a question. That what one most important lesson you have learned from your time as a professional athlete?
Okay, great question. So what was the most important thing that you've learned from your time as a professional athlete? Wow. Okay, over to you, Denise, for that one.
So that's a big question. Oh, so many lessons. But perseverance, I think, is the biggest lesson. I talked about the setbacks. I talked about the injuries. You have to be persevering in your daily tasks, and the training for my event was particularly hard, but slowly you start to understand more about yourself, you start to understand more about your resilience and your appetite for learning and for self-improvement. And so that perseverance, from being inspired as an 8-year-old, wanting to be an Olympian, it would be 20 years before I would stand on the rostrum. So you've got to be patient and have perseverance in your endeavours.
Love that. Thank you that very much. So our next question is coming in actually from the UK. So maybe not snow there. We'll see how it goes. I'm sent a recorded question from Matthew Fullerlove, very much about a certain point in your career, I think.
Hi, Denise. I just wanted to ask, in the 2000 Olympics, how did you motivate yourself to win gold after becoming 8th earlier on in the competition?
Okay, right. So definitely a very precise question there for you.
It was a great question because I'd been injured also leading into those games. So there was a lot of uncertainty about the competition, whether my injury would actually hold up. And so the motivation for me was basically knowing that it was a golden opportunity for me to showcase myself, and all the, I guess, decisions I'd made up to that point, it felt like a now or never moment. And so it was that time where I kind of went into myself and focused only on each event as they came. And so tried really hard not to think about the outcome. I tried not to think about how much it would mean to Queen and country, to my family, and really stayed in the moment and focused on the technical aspects of my event and try not to get too anxious. And so visualization techniques, so thinking about my event, thinking about the 1 or 2 things that would really make a difference for each of the 7 events, and a little bit of luck never hurts.
It's a great answer, and the luck as well, certainly. But you're right. I mean, I'm sure there are moments in our lives also we're not quite there, and it's a hard challenge to go forward. So thank you for that. Well, we're going to try and get our connections right on the audio side first of all. This is a big one. We're going to get a message in now that's been sent in from Uganda. So Lincoln, let's try and hear your question.
My name is Lincoln Tentenda from Uganda, East Africa, and I have a question for Miss Denise Lewis. How best can people take part in physical exercises so as to stay healthy during such hard times? Thank you.
What a great smile.
Great smile and great question. Listen, you don't have to have the Olympic gold standard to exercise. I've always been a firm believer that your health is your wealth. And so it's finding something that you enjoy. Not everyone likes to run. So even getting out and walking, changing that walk to a jog. So I call that jog. And so it's literally taking in the areas that you can live in, it's very difficult within this time of COVID to getting out with your friends. That is really the biggest challenge. So it's about having that motivation. So what I tend to do is I start my day in leggings and, something that I'm going to work out with. And I'm not ever sure what time of the day it's going to be, but I promise myself that I can at least find 15 or 20 minutes of my day to do some form of activity, exercise, and get away from my desk, sometimes get away from the children, but at least make sure that you physically are expanding the lungs as best as you can. But yeah, understanding that your health is your wealth, and that if you invest in your activity and your body, that it will pay dividends throughout the rest of your life.
I think it's a good message, actually. There are lots of people I know who are missing their team sports right now and missing their activities. And I think it has caused some huge problems across the whole of the world, actually, from people we've spoken to about how do they compensate for that, because they're used to getting out there, meeting people, doing it as well. So I think your suggestion there of having that intention of getting up and dressing that way, you're going to do something and making time for it, I think is a key thing as well. And I think just to follow up very briefly is, how do you cope with the children doing that? Do you do PE at home with them? Is that how it works, or?
I do, but then my goal with them and for myself is sometimes you've got to try something new. So yes, I have one of my children that likes rugby and he's desperate to start playing again.
Yes.
But we have to find alternative ways in which he can exercise and keep the balance and coordination and make it fun. And so whether you've got a lot of equipment at home, most people don't. And so you've got to think, okay, if it's a bag of rice, can you do something creative with that? You can do some little bicep presses or, just anything that you can make fun. We do balance exercises on our feet. We sometimes close our eyes. We do reaction tests, so lying on the floor in the hallway. And then getting up really quickly, running on the spot. So it should be fun when you're working with young people and children. And if you are blessed to have some outdoor space, try to make it work for you as well. We sometimes use the trees as little markers to do some running, some shuttle running. It's just anything you physically can to make it work for you.
I think I'm always picturing here a YouTube channel for Denise's Workout with Kids right now. That could be happening. I can see it. Now, there are obviously millions of children around the world that will watch this video, and we're very fortunate and we're very lucky, and we have lots of messages sent in about people hearing things that actually do change their lives and take a step forward. People will know you from television, from an athlete, perhaps from dancing as well in some ways, that they'll have seen you up there and you come across as a really confident person, but you've talked about vulnerability today and actually being courageous. So here we are in a really challenging situation across the world. And as you look forward with hope, and some would say, we hope to inspire people, what would be your message if you're a child watching the screen right now, either on YouTube at Later Play or live in the stream? What would you say to them around the world?
I'd say that, you've got to take, and it's maybe a bit cliche, but it's one step at a time. Nothing stays the same. The environment doesn't stay the same. It moves on. And so you have to be hopeful that you will make it through this very difficult phase of your life, but you will learn from it, you'll grow from it, and also you'll be prepared for the next time that there'll be a challenge in your life, because those things will happen too. And so it's about, as I said, using that word courage, and trying to only think about what you can do in that moment. Yeah, that's the best thing I would say, because it's sometimes very difficult to conceive and think about what's going to happen in the future. But all we can do is make the days that we have better and brighter by picking that one thing that can make a difference to your mindset and make you feel good.